Hey guys, what's up? Itchla coming back to ya with another episode of Car Rides Witchla. And today was actually probably one of my worst days. It wasn't really bad necessarily. So that's why I say worse. Because saying worst would not make any sense at all. Because it really was not my worst day. That just sounds crazy and over dramatic. It really, again, there wasn't anything about it that was too crazy or anything. I don't know. Felt kind of tired. Felt pretty tired. I think a lot's just been wearing on me in general with, I guess, just in reflection, realizing how crazy my awareness is of a lot of things. When I think about it and I think about other people, people are not ready or really aware of what's going on in the world. It's pretty bad. The wages and how a lot of people just aren't really going to be making enough money. There's a lot of problems. There's definitely a lot going on. And it's not really making any sense. Even what I'm doing now, and I'm pretty sure I have it better than a lot of people, because not only am I able to get overtime, but I'm also continuing to function with it. I try to do a lot to buy stuff pre-owned, and I've never really had a problem doing that. So it has just been a huge advantage. Most people, I don't think they really consider it. They just don't. Yeah, I don't know. So I've done a lot, but it's still pretty bad. In general, it's just pretty bad situation for a lot of people. And again, fortunately, I'm doing better than many other people, but again, in general, it's just a whole thing. It's a whole thing going on. A lot of people have it rough. And I think about it a lot, but I don't know. Because it doesn't seem fair to me. It doesn't seem right to me. But I wonder if past a certain point, I'm putting myself through a lot, and it's a lot of things I can't really do a whole lot about. I mean, if you really understand the world right now, and I've expressed it, I've talked about it to GPT, and things are really heading in a dangerous direction fast. It's things that, I still think my mind, being a young mind, is not really meant to be able to understand enough. And I look around and most adults are very blind. There's people twice my age who might as well be half of my age. And I don't say that out of arrogance. I just say it out of sadness. It's just not a good situation. It's not a situation that is making a lot of sense. So I don't know. I just don't. But I was thinking about that today. All the weight that I have on myself to try to save money and to try to do the right thing and all this stuff. But it's still true that the things I worked for or whatever could just be laid to waste. I mean, we're dealing with existential changing factors. If our infrastructure is not maintained properly, there isn't a pretty significant shift in our care and attention to these things. It's possible in my lifetime you could have issues with the electrical grid in America. Just lots of very concerning things that could really, and it just seems like people are not focused on it. It seems like a lot of people's lives are already too hard and too difficult based on this crazy system that we've created, this very stressful modern system that presents itself to us. And I think for a while I had it good. I didn't know it. You know, I lived with my parents. I didn't work for a few years. And I could really live, you know, and it wasn't a true freedom, but that's always been the thing, is I've always had the greatest luxury, and I don't know that I've really appreciated it. I think at times I've even resented it. But it's true. You know, I think out of any people, I had so much time in my life to really be who I wanted to be. And it's probably the most important privilege, even compared to money. I think there was a reason for what I went through. And it's also interesting, too, because you think about a lot of my father's ideology and thoughts on things, and how I probably am a product of his idealistic beliefs. You know, in his mind, freedom is a very important thing, and I definitely had that. And at the time, I was upset about it. I craved structure. I wanted to have some kind of a direction. But I really think in retrospect, I just had no idea. It's a grass is greener on the other side of the fence kind of thing. It's kind of like how you go so long without a war, and now some people, there's a lot of talk about, oh, well, you know, when we're at war, all the mental hospitals are empty and all the insane asylums are empty and everybody's doing great and everything's great. So you start to have people start to fantasize and romanticize war. Yeah, I think the grass was greener on the other side of the fence for me. For some reason, my whole life, I've been oddly obsessed with work. I've romanticized work. And I'm not really sure why. Why have I romanticized work and money? I think a lot of it just has to do with fear. Being more afraid than other people. But when it comes to the way I've managed my money, sure, I've spent more than I should have, but in general, I've definitely been very responsible as compared to most people. Like, there's no reason why I should be that hard on myself given the state of the economy and, just everything that we're dealing with. I'm doing all right. I'm not doing half bad. And a lot of people have it far worse. But I've still always been so hard on myself. And I know I've probably said it before on this show that like my biggest regret is not getting a job sooner. And I really romanticized this, and now I start to question that a little bit. And while it's true, many of those years of me not working were kind of wasted on people, wasted on spending time with people who didn't really go that deep. I don't know that they contributed a ton to my character necessarily, but I feel that my thoughts were still intact throughout all these circumstances that I went through. It wasn't like I wasn't me. Maybe I should have spent more time in solitude and spent less time listening to music, or, you could come up with any random thing I could have optimized better here or there. As I think of more and more as you get older and the world gets thrust at you, but what is being a human? What is being ourselves? And why have I been afforded the life that I've been given? Why have I been given the time that I've been given to contemplate these things, to unravel these things, to have time to have fun? And why have I still been so anxious and stressed and worried? It's true that I can't do anything about what's going on. I'm already doing very well considering, again, where I've came from and what I've known my whole life. I'm not going to say I'm doing the best I can do, because I'm not. I don't really think anybody is, but I think in general, it's not bad. Really hasn't been all that bad of a situation. I don't know. I mean, and then the reason why I think about this is because it's a day that wasn't great. I described it as one of my worst days. Definitely not worst, but worse. Because it's still really not as bad as what a lot of people have to deal with. And my luck in this way has continued to be true even for my job, where I've been given a job where I've still been able to maintain my character and actually grow and build on my character, which is just so rare. It's so rare. And it's so lucky, And that's why I wonder, what is the validity to my fatigue? What is the validity to how I feel? It's interesting how I can remember feelings. I've talked about this before. I'm just thinking back to a time when I was 5 years old. I was 5 years old and there was a fair thing at our school, and my older sister was trying to get all the tickets to get the top prize, which was a iPod shuffle, I believe. And she did get enough tickets for it, but somebody else had already gotten it first. And instead she ended up getting this radio. I don't know why back then it just seemed like a lot of stuff at the school or just things in general. There were a lot of people that really spent a lot of time setting these things up, these fairs, picking out good prizes. I think that's all gone now. I'm sure they might still do fairs, but a lot of these things, they fade into obscurity, because when you have such an easier and always on outlet of your phone, people are just putting less effort into stores and into the physical things that we do. And I've noticed this too clearly for anybody to say that this isn't true or this isn't the case. Noticed it far too clearly. There's stores I remember going to as a child, and the things in the stores and the physical displays were all so elaborate and interesting. And I know there's a rose-tinted lens, but trying to look at things objectively, trying to see things outside of the rose-tinted lens. I think some things have materially improved. Some toys, some things in stores may be able to have higher quality finishes on them nowadays, but the overall quality, it still seems relatively worse, I want to say. It still seems relatively worse. I don't know. Some toys are obviously better quality than they've ever been before, just due to manufacturing improvements, but I think the median set of toys is not... It's probably gotten worse. And it's not even like material quality matters much when it's the purpose of the toys that is diminished. And I guess a part of me, whenever I have these flashbacks, it really yearns for that time when things seemed special. And I hear the rose-tinted lens argument, but as somebody who still had the luxury to still be a child in a sense, in some ways, I just don't see how the stuff nowadays is really all like it. Well, I guess there were always trends, but things nowadays just seem more shallow. I'm not sure. I'm trying to be objective. It's a lot of the way people design stores. And, you know, you can have these special boutique stores where, again, maybe nowadays there's more attention to detail than there ever has been. But I'm talking about medians. I'm talking about the experience for regular people. I kind of remember smaller stores having not only more prevalence, but a different kind of attention to detail and care. Smaller businesses. Of course, now I'm sure if you go to these really expensive stores in a mall or something nowadays, materially, they could be fancier than we've ever had, you know, in terms of design and in terms of the intricate detailing, just because the way the world has gone. I'm sure of it. I'm sure you could find fancier stores, but I'm really talking about the median. I'm talking about, you know, if you just go into a gas station or you go into a toy store, I think there's a difference between extreme opulence and attention to detail and little Easter eggs and things, you know, fun stuff, fun things that you notice about an owner directly being there. And there's almost a different soul to it. I don't feel like that can be replicated by just paying a bunch of people to make some perfect, amazing presentation. I think that there was something special that we lived in a time where a regular person could really just open a regular business and it could work. And you could have more of a unique character to it. And it not just be some perfect design, or if it's not perfectly high end, it's probably just lazier and worse nowadays. It just seems like people put less effort into the material because they're putting so much effort into the virtual and the digital. And I think for a while that was kind of a cool outcome, but now it's like, sorry, I had a negative thought cross my mind. It distracted me. I wonder if it could be possible for me to tap into that feeling, though, because I remember that feeling. I remember the excitement. It just seemed like things made sense, and there's just been so much craziness and stress now. It's been so long, and those years are distant, but things definitely changed by the time I was a teenager. I think when I was born and being a child and having the memory and the memories I do, it puts me in a position where I can really see, like, really, you know, I can really see what's going on and see how things have changed, because I was around just at the end of an era and the beginning of a new era. And it's still something that I'm not at peace with. I still yearned for the past. There was no car rides with Schla in 2024, but again, for some reason, it feels like 2024 was kind of lost in the noise. And that was a big part of 2024, was the sentimentality of all these things. And it's a shame that wasn't documented, but I wanted to make a time machine. I wanted to try to simulate these ideal environments. At least, if we can't make a time machine, we can simulate a time machine. But what does that mean? If we were to do that, and if humans en masse started just wanting to go back and leave this time, what would it mean? We would all probably leave and maybe we'd want to take our technology with it, which might spoil what was even special about different eras. But what does that do? What would that make the future like? Empty, less people here, everybody wanting to go to their, or what they felt was the perfect past point. Would any of us stay? And how is that fair? What would happen if everybody left the present and went to the past? I guess it would be pretty empty in this time period. And that's kind of what worries me about how that thought and that idea of thinking that the past was better and to want to go back to it or at least simulate it, the flaw with it. Even if we could essentially go back in time, should we? And it kind of flies in the face of the whole problem of digitalization and entering these sleep-like states where we're not present. And isn't that the whole problem? I feel like it's the whole problem that I just illustrated. You know, the reason why parents are probably not able to set up as elaborate school fairs, they don't feel like setting up as elaborate storefronts or as unique, having the character, because there's always something to run to. You have to do this, you have to do that. Ooh, I want to get my... You know, it's all these things are going on in our heads all the time. There's always something to do. There's always something that we have to do better. This is what has consumed us. And I think my brain is somewhat good at handling it, but it's not really human. And I don't know why I ended up romanticizing it when I am one of the lucky to not really have to be dealing with it. And so maybe that's part of the problem. You know, the romanticizing of time periods, the memory. Because in my own little way, it's dulling my path that's in front of me. My own perception, at the very least, is dulled. So what would it mean to tap into the rose-tinted lens and to put those back on again? Is it human awareness and calculation that ruins things for us? Is it hedonistic spoilage? What does it? What's really the problem? Is it the romanticizing of the past, or I don't know that today I really got much answers. Again, it was an odd day from start to finish, but I do feel like that one answer was pretty profound, is understanding that the exiting to the past would not do anything to solve anything. Because at the time when I experienced things, I was not transporting to the past. I was experiencing these things raw and in a bright way. And I guess as you age and as you're able to see things more for how they really are, things don't seem as bright anymore. They seem more dull. But I wonder how that really works. You know, why should I hold on to such stringent and strict, realistic ideas? And because I feel like we lack a openness about things and a joy. I mean, would things have been so special if back then we had the same distractions as we do now? Or would I have just missed things and missed the moments? You know, if I had the computer and the internet at the speed it's at now back then, would I have even formed the same memories? Am I generating lost nostalgia now as we, well, not as we speak, because this is this is hardly this is hardly lost nostalgia, let me tell you. I mean, what I'm doing right now is fine. It's the opposite of lost anything. But what I mean is, in general, as we live life, and my mourning for the past, is it creating lost chapters in the book? Is it creating some blank spots in the writing and on the pages? I think it's possible that it may be doing that. You know, the some of the words, some of the sections, they may be missing. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm trying to unravel this. I'm trying to think about it and to figure it out, and I don't know that I can really calculate or come up with the answer at the moment. I feel like I'm on the brink of something, but there's a bit of fog surrounding it, you know? But I definitely think I got something out of this conversation. It's how we should look at things. Why do we look at things the way we do? What really is objective? Is it even worth it to know what's objective? It's difficult to say these things. And just even being in a car, how different it felt. There really is something missing from the addictions and the busyness of life that just they weren't there when I was a kid. Sure, you had some addictions. I like to play on my DS, but it wasn't as gripping and it wasn't as entrenched in your mind. And even that had an element of mindfulness compared to now. You know, video games like that don't even seem half bad compared to what we deal with nowadays. And just how crazy it's all become. It has been schla. And now it's time to buy schla. So, see you, schla.